lose here. What am I holding? Oh shit. Hey! She's 7. Wait, Rikyu is here. Shout out to Hemis. So I have 111. I'm ugly as hell. You know what? Okay, bet. Bunch of 100s and 1000s. You know what? Alright, bet. I will lock to fuck in. Like, game. Let me just look. He won like 50,000 Robux in only 3 weeks. I don't wanna die. I got 1000 this month. That's nice. That's nice. I got 6,000. Whoa! What? Yo, shout out to me. And 9,000. Okay, that's a lot. Past a day, I got 4 bucks. Past a week, I got 45. Invested 32 of them. You did not credit that into my account. Liar. Um, what? No way, bro. 50, 50 robux for that. Whoa, whoa. Yo, bro. Let me just see this one. Farmer's Revenge. When the fuck we start, bro?
Hey guys, it's Fire Attack, the developer behind The Forge. Let me take you back to the moment this game was born. It was 2024, a year ago. Me and my friend Umut were sitting in a cafe in Tokyo, waiting for hotel check-in, just passing time. That's when the conversation turned to our dream projects. I shared two ideas. First, a gladiator roguelite, brutal, randomized, unforgiving. It was a cool idea, but the idea wasn't there yet. Then I mentioned the second concept I had in my mind, an idea I carried since childhood. A game about mining, forging, and creating weapons to use in combat or to sell. Essentially an RPG simulator and sandbox combination. That conversation was a spark, and from that moment on, The Forge became real. When people ask me where The Forge came from, the truth is it didn't start in Japan. It started when I was a kid. Back then, I wasn't a developer, just a kid who loved games, and one of the things that defined my childhood was Flash games. I played non-stop when I was a child, and one of these games was Jack Smith, Become a Donkey, and Forge Weapons for Soldiers. That forging aspect of the game was so much fun. That experience planted a seed in my head. What if one day I could make something like this? So if we go back to the topic, in that cafe with Umut, when we talked about our dream projects, that seed came back. I didn't want to just make another game. I wanted to create something that gave today's players the same feeling I had back then, not just pressing buttons, but building, creating, and being proud of what you made. The earliest vision of The Forge was simple. Each player had their own plot, a mine, and a forge. You dig, pull out ores, and craft weapons, almost like a simulator. But even in those first sketches, I knew I wanted more. Because the truth is, I didn't want The Forge to just be a simulator. I wanted depth. I wanted choices. I wanted it to feel alive, closer to an RPG. And that's where the core idea was born. You mine, you forge, and then you choose. Sell it, fight with it, or save it for later upgrades. That freedom became the heart of the game. After that trip to Japan, I came home with one thing on my mind, The Forge. I knew if I didn't act, it would end up like so many other ideas I'd had before just talk. So I sat down and wrote the first game design document. Had everything. The mining minigame, forging mechanics, balancing notes, even wild plans for runes and bosses we couldn't build yet. It wasn't just what the game was, it was what the game could become. When I finished, I sent Umut a simple message, The Forge? And he replied, yes, we shall start. That was the spark that turned the idea into a real project. We began with a block out of a bare bones test map with nothing but mining and forging. No polish, no visuals, just the skeleton of what would one day be the game. And even though it looked like cubes and placeholders, it was exciting. For the first time, we weren't just talking about The Forge, we were building it. But it didn't take long to realize we needed more help. A project this big couldn't be handled by two people alone. That's when Umut brought in his longtime friend Sehun, a scripter. He focused on code while I built the UI, weapons, and all the art and design work. Soon after, we were joined by Vu, who took charge of building our environments, and Marblesiak, who brought our weapons to life with character and weapon animations. Together, we had our first real team. That's when The Forge finally had its foundation. With a team in place, we started building out the core loop. It was messy at first, just rocks you could mine, ores you could collect, and a forge that generate weapons. No world, no story, just mechanics floating in a test space. But even in that rough form, something stood out. The mining felt good. Our first testers told us it was satisfying. The swing, the timing, the particles, it all clicked. And I realized if we could make the most repetitive part of the loop fun, everything else could be built on top of that. So we doubled down. We refined the animations, polished the sounds, and adjusted the feedback until mining felt smooth and addictive. From there, we turned to forging the heart of the game. Forging couldn't just be a button press. It had to feel like you were shaping something real. Even the first version gave players a sense of ownership. This weapon exists because I made it. That opened the door for armor. Originally,
Fine. Nah.
it wasn't part of the plan, but once weapons were in, it felt natural. Players wanted to see themselves equipped head to toe, so armor crafting became the next step. It was at that moment the Forge stopped feeling like a prototype and started feeling like an actual game. Mining, forging, weapons, armor, and the foundation was there. Imperfect, yes, but real. Once mining, forging, and armor were in, it was time to let people try it. First, it was just a handful of friends and devs we trusted, but the tester group quickly grew, and something unexpected happened. People didn't just test the game, they played it. We only had one small island, barely polished, with 8 basic ores. That was it. But the testers stayed for hours. Some clocked hundreds of hours on just that tiny slice of the game. To put it in perspective, the full release will have over 60 ores. They had 8, and they still kept coming back. That told me something important. The core loop worked. If players could lose themselves in the bare minimum, the full version had the potential to be massive. But it wasn't just the playtime that mattered, it was the feedback. Our testers weren't passive, they were passionate. They told us what felt broken, what felt good, what could be improved. Some ideas were small, others huge. Not all of them made it into the game, but their energy shaped the Forge as much as we did. We refined, polished, tweaked over and over. Every round of testing made the game smoother, more satisfying, more alive. Looking back, those early testers weren't just players, they were co-builders. Without them, the Forge wouldn't be what it is today. Of course, it wasn't all smooth. Every project like this hits walls, and the Forge was no different. One of the first big setbacks came from real life. A team member faced financial challenges and had to take on commissions alongside development. It was completely understandable, but it naturally slowed our pace. Days turned into weeks, and the momentum we had built started to lose steam. For me, that was scary. I'd seen this pattern before on other projects. You pause for too long, and you never come back. I didn't want the Forge to end up like that. So even during the slowdown, I kept pushing, kept messaging. We should keep going. I refused to let it fade. But then came another hit from outside. Other blacksmithing games started showing up on Roblox, and they weren't small. Some blew up fast. I remember seeing one hit 15,000 concurrent players. The milestone we had planned for the Forge. And at that moment, we felt crushed, because I couldn't help but think, if we hadn't lost time, maybe that would have been us. It was frustrating. Honestly, it's painful. But eventually, I had to stop and ask myself, what was my real goal? It wasn't just CCU numbers. It wasn't beating the competition. My goal was to make a game I loved, a game players would truly enjoy, something I would have grinded for hours if I was the player. And remembering that, that's what carried me through the setbacks. After the setbacks, I came back hungrier than ever. Forging worked, but I knew that wasn't enough. If the Forge was going to last, it had to be deeper. The kind of game you could sink weeks, even months into. That's when we started expanding the vision. The first big step was runes. They weren't just cosmetic, they gave weapons unique properties. Suddenly, forging wasn't only about stats, it was about identity. A sword with a fire ring didn't just hit harder, it felt like your weapon. That opened the door to skill abilities that we will add in one of the early updates. Next came enhancements, a way to push weapons and armor even further, giving players reasons to keep improving their gear instead of replacing it. And of course, as equipment got stronger, enemies had to evolve too. We began designing new monsters, challenges, and eventually bosses for updates. Not just bigger enemies, but fights that required timing, strategy, and skill. Defeating them meant rare drops, the kind of loot you'd brag about owning. Piece by piece, the Forge transformed. What started as a simple simulator-style idea in a Tokyo cafe was now a full RPG experience, stacked with systems and mechanics that work together. For the first time, I could see the bigger picture. This wasn't just a game loop anymore, it was a journey. Now here we are. After a year of planning, setbacks, and countless hours of work, the Forge is finally close to release. It's surreal to think about. For so long, this game only lived in my head. Then it became a design document, then a rough blockout, and now it's a full experience, almost ready to be in your hands. In just a week or two, we'll be running a 24-hour stress test. For one full day, the Forge will go public. You'll be able to play and experience a slice of the game we've built for the very first time. And honestly, that excites me as much as it scares me, because after working on a game for this long, you lose perspective. You don't know if it's still fun. You don't know if people will feel what you felt when you first came up with the idea. Even the dev of Stardew Valley admitted he hated his own game before release. After years of staring at it, he couldn't tell anymore. That's why we need you. Your feedback, your perspective, that's what will make the Forge better. If something feels off, if a mechanic can be improved, if there's a detail we missed, we need to hear it, because this
Ha ha. Ha ha. Ha ha. Easy, easy revival. Ha? Shut the fuck up! Gerizekalı ya. Tırnağını geçirdin bana Hafsa.
Abi seni çağırıyorlar.